So Elon Musk has leveraged his power and his influence with the Trump administration to kill a bill that was supposed to avert a government shutdown in Congress. And so these government shutdown fights, this happens every couple years. It's essentially lost all meaning because it's just become a way for people to utilize their leverage against each other, try to get some concessions. It really ultimately ends up being pretty inconsequential. The government shutting down is a bad thing. The first thing that happens is that federal employees don't get their paychecks, which is bad because there's a lot of working class federal employees who do really good work that all of us need them to do. And those people don't get paid if the government shuts down. That's relatively rare, but what is common is these fights over the government shutdowns. And it becomes this fight with leverage and sort of using the media to try to put pressure on one another, whether it's the right side and the left side or Democrats and Republicans. What you're going to see too during the Trump administration, once Republicans have this trifecta, you're going to see these same fights too. There's going to be the same fights over government shutdown because not all Republicans agree on what the government should be doing or how much we should be completely eviscerating government spending. And so you're going to see these same type of fights, except it's not going to be between Republicans and Democrats. It's going to be between Republicans and Republicans. And so, this whole government shutdown thing wasn't really that much on my radar. It's probably going to resolve itself. But the main interesting thing here is you have Elon Musk, an unelected oligarch, who is stepping in and utilizing his leverage, mostly through the communications platform that he bought with $44 billion. Most of that value has been drained out of Twitter. Twitter is not as valuable of an entity as it was ever since Musk tried to turn it into X. So he has devalued this platform so that he could use it and its immense reach and influence for his own gain. And so that's what we're seeing here. This is an unelected guy. This is a plutocrat who is only influential to the level that he is when it comes to government because he's made some kind of deal with Trump. Who knows how long that deal will last? Trump doesn't tend to have these alliances that last very long, especially when it comes to high level, high profile. Elon Musk is just too in the headlines. He's too in the spotlight. Trump doesn't like that. So he seems to be allowing it to happen right now, but eventually they're going to trip over each other and they're going to be on the outs and they're going to go back and forth and it's going to be a whole fucking mess. But for now, Elon Musk is using his immense power to essentially dictate, quite literally dictate on Twitter what our government should and shouldn't do. And it's worked. So this bill was going to pass to avert the government shutdown. And Elon Musk, by rallying against it, him and Vivek Ramaswamy, they have effectively convinced Trump to levy some demands against the Republicans that effectively killed the bill. And so the reason that Elon Musk said that this bill shouldn't pass is because no bill should be passed until Trump is inaugurated, until the next Congress comes into session and the next administration comes in. Now, that really makes no sense at all. There's no reason for that other than the fact that Elon Musk doesn't like that the government would do anything at all without him having a say. Again, unelected. Elon Musk was not on any ballot anywhere. So Donald Trump has the right to sort of, associate with who he wants to. But in Elon Musk, what we see is a guy who has purposely and very diligently built up his own power, his own personal influence, so that he can do things like this. And he doesn't like the idea of the government being funded for a certain period of time in a way that's not under his control. And so as we have this administration that was elected on this idea of Trump is fighting for the working class, this is right-wing populism, and Trump is going to shake things up because people are unhappy with the establishment order. Trump is anti-establishment. And yet here he is cohorting with the richest man in the world and allowing that man to dictate what our government does and doesn't spend money on. And that's before we even get to the point where Trump is actually in office and this Doge thing, it's not going to be a government agency of any kind. It's going to be kind of like ancillary to a government agency so that it can be even more corrupt. So before we even get to the point where that entity is doing whatever it's going to do, we have Elon Musk dictating through Donald Trump and through Twitter that he doesn't like what's in the spending bill. He doesn't even like the idea that there's a spending bill and that they should hold off on doing any of this until the next government, just because he thinks that's what should happen. And, for anybody out there who thinks that this is some kind of anti-establishment pattern that we're seeing here, this is the talking point that you see, that Trump, the reason people voted for Trump is because he's anti-establishment and blah, blah, blah. How much more establishment could you possibly get than the richest man in the world deciding what bills do and don't pass in Congress? I mean, this is the kind of thing that Elon Musk has been criticizing about people like George Soros or whatever over the past few years. But it's clear at this point that all he wanted was to be George Soros. He wants to be what he thinks George Soros is, which is the guy pulling the strings of government, using his influence and his immense wealth to decide on an unelected basis what our government does. And that's what the Doge thing is all about too. And that's not even to speak of the conflicts of interest that come from the fact that Elon Musk is a government contractor. His businesses, Tesla, SpaceX, they depend on taxpayer dollars. He gets government contracts so that he can execute these projects, most of which are done by his employees. It's not like he's some fucking super genius, but he's been able to amass enough capital that he can offer something to the government. And he can, kind of create these projects that the government is willing to invest in on our behalf, which is already questionable enough. There should have been investigations into this, high-profile public investigations into this over the last 4 or 5 years. We haven't really seen that. And yet, now this guy is going to be controlling and dictating using an ancillary to the government agency, some type of entity, whatever you call it. He's going to be dictating what the government does and doesn't spend money on. And there's already been reporting that he has caused a ruckus because Vivek Ramaswamy tried to cut certain programs that would have gone towards him, that would have led to his programs being funded. So obviously that's where he wants taxpayer dollars to go, is into his own businesses. He doesn't want them to go into Social Security, into Medicare, into the post office. And that's what we see now. We see Republicans talking about privatizing the Postal Service. So this is a big deal. And I don't know if people really recognize, there's a lot of things that Trump and the Republicans are talking about that people don't really recognize what it means. The prerequisite to privatizing the Postal Service means that they will no longer deliver to certain areas, rural areas. These are Trump voters. Now, that's not a possibility, right? If we say that the Postal Service is going to be privatized, it's not like maybe they'll stop delivering to these areas. They won't. They won't do it anymore. And the reason is because it's not profitable. This is a government agency that delivers mail to every address in the country because that's its job. It's a service. It's not a business. That costs money. There's spending that happens there. Some of that money is made back, but not all of it. And the reason not all of it is made back is because there are certain areas in the country where people need their mail, they need their medication, they need to receive whatever, ballots, checks, stimulus checks. They have to receive those things by mail, and yet the FedEx, USPS, Amazon doesn't deliver to those places because it doesn't make sense for them to. They will lose money. So privatizing the post office means that we are going to be putting the essential function of delivering mail to people in the hands of people who the first thing that they're going to do is stop delivering to these non-profitable areas in the country. And there's something really interesting about the fact that those are Trump's voters. Those are the people who are so staunchly conservative that they would probably never consider voting for somebody who's not Trump, at least not in this iteration of America, right? And so there's really something to be analyzed there about the Republican strategy, because first of all, there's the idea that these people vote against their interests anyway. But Donald Trump was smart enough to know that he has to say things like, I'm not going to cut 1 penny from Social Security. He's not saying that anymore. He's singing a different tune now. The type of conversations that are happening behind closed doors without all of us being involved, but with the richest people in the world like Elon Musk and Jeff Bezos and Mark Zuckerberg, they're involved in those conversations. We are not. And so these services that we all benefit from, they're talking about cutting those because they don't see the benefit. I don't see why. I'm Elon Musk. I don't see why we would deliver mail to all of these places out in the boondocks of Florida. Why would we do that? It's not profitable. So those are the type of conversations that are happening behind closed doors. Meanwhile, Republicans have pretty much perfected the art of appealing to those people who the services would be cut off to. Appealing to those people on the basis of racism, anti-immigration racism, boilerplate Southern strategy racism. This is the reason these people are so dedicated to the GOP and the Republicans, is because for years they have established themselves as the party that's going to sort of fight this culture war against whatever, the invaders, black people, the communists, whatever it is that you want to characterize it as, this fear-mongering. They use that to appeal to those people because the policies that they have are directly opposed to what is actually going to benefit those people. If you're a rural voter in pretty much any state in the country, including California, which is the state that I'm in, there are rural voters in California that are staunchly Republican, just like everywhere else in the country. You are the one that Social Security is for. You are the one that Medicare is for. You are quite literally the reason that those programs were established. So when you're talking about all these crazy radical policies of the Democrats and they want to spend all this money and they want to tax the rich, that's why. Because those programs cost money, and you have people like Elon Musk with $400 billion in the bank. And who knows? I mean, he's probably not even actually the richest person in the country. He's just the richest person in the country on paper, right? So because of people like him, there's a lot of money that the US government is entitled to in order to provide these services to its citizens. And you know the reason why it's entitled to that tax money? Because Elon Musk, Jeff Bezos, Mark Zuckerberg, all of them profit from the infrastructure that is built by the government. They don't build their own roads. They don't build their own internet cables. They profit from the same infrastructure that all of us use. They're a part of this society, and without that infrastructure, their business model would entirely crumble. And that's why Jeff Bezos cannot be put in charge of the USPS. Because if we remove the service element of government and make it about profit, make it about running a business, guess what? There are certain people who are going to be cut off from that. And people are going to die. People are not going to be able to receive medicine. People are going to be disenfranchised from our society. This is what Elon Musk wants. When Elon Musk is upset that a bill is passing that he doesn't get to personally put his hands all over and make decisions about what is and isn't in the bill, when he's upset that he doesn't have absolute control of something that's happening in a government that he was never elected to, either in this administration or the next one, doesn't matter, Elon Musk, unelected. But he doesn't want spending to be happening in places that don't directly benefit his businesses. This is the libertarian religious mindset. And I mean religious in the sense of like the libertarian religion, this ultimate faith in the idea that the market incentive is going to solve all problems. Except guess what? You have people that live places in this country where it's not profitable to deliver them mail, where it's not profitable for a person to work until they're 90 years old, until they drop dead. And it's actually better for that person to have some government benefits that they can survive on, that we all benefit from those type of services. But Elon Musk, Jeff Bezos, they're entirely detached from that. But that's the class of people that Donald Trump serves. Make no mistake about it. And if you don't understand that yet, if you're a Trump voter and you don't understand that yet, or you're starting to see it, but you're holding out hope, rest assured, Trump's administration is going to be an administration that serves those people, not you. When they talk about cutting government spending and all this wasteful spending, they are talking about services that help you, services that help you survive, that you can't survive without, whether you think you can or not. That's what these people are for. That's what we have voted into office through Donald Trump. And now we have these unelected plutocrats, oligarchs, that don't want to control our government. They get to control our government. And they're going to control our government. And we're going to see what the result of that is. And I can tell you right now what the result of it is going to be. It's going to be good for them and bad for us. Period.